My Love of Italy by Clara Winslow. Nestled on the sun-dappled shores of Lake Como, the small town of Bellagio seemed untouched by time. Its cobblestone streets wound between pastel-colored buildings, each adorned with vibrant flower boxes. It was here that Lucia Moretti lived, a young woman whose heart seemed to beat in rhythm with the gentle waves of the lake. Lucia, 26, worked in her family's gelateria, a cornerstone of the piazza. Her caramel hair, often pulled into a loose braid, seemed to glisten under the Italian sun. She was known not just for her beauty but for her warmth and laughter, which echoed through the piazza as she handed out scoops of pistachio and stracciatella to eager children. Yet behind her bright eyes lay a restlessness. She longed for something beyond the confines of Bellagio, though she couldn't quite name what that was. One morning, as Lucia arranged jars of Amarena cherries on the counter, a new face appeared in the shop. He was tall, with dark hair that framed a sharp jawline, and he carried himself with a quiet confidence. His attire was simple but elegant, a linen shirt rolled up to his elbows and trousers that brushed against polished loafers. When he spoke, his voice carried a rich timbre, tinged with a foreign accent. "Buongiorno, one gelato, pistachio." Lucia looked up, startled by the stranger's striking features. "Of course," she replied, recovering quickly. As she handed him the cone, she couldn't help but ask, "You're not from around here, are you?" He smiled, his hazel eyes squinting at the corners. "No, I'm from New York. My name is Marco Rinaldi." Over the next week, Marco became a regular at the gelateria. Each visit brought a new layer to his story. He was an architect, visiting Italy to research Renaissance villas for a project back in the States. His passion for his work was evident in the way he spoke, his hands sketching invisible blueprints in the air as he described vaulted ceilings and sweeping staircases. Lucia found herself drawn to Marco's intellect and charm. He, in turn, was captivated by her authenticity, and the way her laughter seemed to brighten even the most ordinary moments. They began spending their afternoons together, exploring the winding alleys of Bellagio, sharing secrets over espresso at cafes, and taking leisurely boat rides on the lake. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting the lake in hues of amber and rose, Marco suggested a walk to the Punta Spartivento, a narrow strip of land where the lake split into two branches. The air was filled with the scent of jasmine, and the distant hum of cicadas provided a soothing soundtrack. "Lucia," Marco began, his voice soft yet steady. "I've traveled to many places, seen so many wonders, but nothing compares to the time I've spent with you here. I've never felt so alive." Lucia's heart raced. She had known this moment was coming, but hearing the words made it all the more real. "Marco, I feel the same," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "But you're from New York. Your life is there, and mine is here. How could we possibly make this work?" Marco took her hands in his. "I don't have all the answers, but I know this: I don't want to let fear dictate my life. If we both feel this strongly, isn't it worth trying?" Their relationship deepened in the weeks that followed. Marco extended his stay, and they began dreaming of a future together. Yet reality loomed large. Marco's career demanded his presence in New York, while Lucia's family depended on her to run the gelateria. One evening, as they sat on the terrace of Lucia's home, sipping limoncello under a canopy of stars, Marco proposed an idea. "Come to New York with me, just for a month. See what it's like. If you don't love it, I'll come back to Bellagio, and we'll find a way to build a life here together." Lucia hesitated. The thought of leaving Bellagio, even temporarily, was daunting. Yet the prospect of a life with Marco filled her with a sense of possibility she had never known. "Okay," she said finally, "I'll come." In New York, Lucia was both dazzled and overwhelmed. The city's frenetic energy was a stark contrast to the tranquil pace of Bellagio. Marco's apartment in Brooklyn offered sweeping views of the skyline, but Lucia found herself missing the simple beauty of the lake and the comforting rhythm of her daily life. Still, she embraced the adventure. Marco took her to art galleries, rooftop gardens, and architectural landmarks that inspired him. Lucia, in turn, shared her love of Italian cuisine, teaching Marco how to make tiramisu from scratch and delighting in his attempts to pronounce Italian phrases. Yet, as the month drew to a close, Lucia felt a growing unease. She loved Marco deeply, but she couldn't ignore the pull of her roots. One evening, as they strolled through Central Park, she voiced her concerns. "Marco, I've loved every moment with you here, but this city, it's not home for me. My heart belongs to Bellagio." Marco nodded, his expression pensive. "I understand. I've been thinking a lot about what you said about home. And I've realized something: home isn't a place. It's where you are. I'm willing to make Bellagio my home, if it means being with you." Tears welled in Lucia's eyes. "Are you sure? That's a big decision." Marco smiled. "I've never been more sure of anything." They returned to Bellagio together, their love stronger than ever. Marco began designing a modern expansion for the gelateria, blending contemporary elements with the charm of its historic past. The project became a labor of love, symbolizing the merging of their worlds. As the seasons changed, so did their lives. Marco proposed to Lucia one crisp autumn evening, on the same spot at Punta Spartivento where they had first confessed their love. They were married the following spring, in a ceremony that brought the entire town together. Lucia's restlessness was replaced with a profound sense of contentment. She had found her adventure, not in leaving Bellagio, but in opening her heart to the possibilities of love. Together, she and Marco created a life that was as rich and vibrant as the gelato they served, proving that sometimes, the greatest journeys begin right where you are.